Okay, imagine your own sad jazz music, everybody. We're so low budget we couldn't be bothered to even find something this week. But yes, Luke is gone, so we thought it would be a good time to look back on the life of such a beloved character. He's been part of Coronation Street for the past 4 years now, can you believe it? I kind of... He's definitely going to be one of these characters that you look back on and say, do you remember such and such, isn't he?
Yes.
And then you go, oh, hang on a minute, no, I do remember him because Pat Phelan killed him, but I don't remember much else. So if that is the case, and you're listening in the future or whatever, and you want to know a little bit about Luke, hopefully the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so will tell you all that you need to know about the history of our dearly departed mechanic.
Luke Nazir.
Luke Britton.
Oh, that's right. He's not related to them in any way at all.
No. We don't know very much about him, to be honest. Well, Corey PG doesn't, at least. Anyway, we haven't got a birthday or anything. We haven't got a year he was born, even. All we know is that he died on the 5th of January 2018. He's got a sister, Steph Britton. First appeared on the 3rd of March 2014.
Is it really the 5th? It's the
and now he's gone
already.
I know, it's going up fast, isn't it? And he was in just under 300 appearances in total. He is played by Dean Fagan. Now, the announcements that that Dean would be joining the cast of Coronation Street was announced on the 1st of December 2013. He would be a hunky new character and the brother of the already... You like hunky people, don't you?
I love
That's
them.
Married me. Brother of Steph, who'd already been in the show for a little while, although I think back then she'd only been like a little bit character. Slaggy Steph, friend of Slaggy Katie.
Dead.
Anyway, he was billed as a replacement for Tommy Duckworth. Now we know that he left the show under a bit of a cloud after the extracurricular activities of Chris Fountain, and they needed another hunky mechanic, and so this is Dean. Or Luke, should I say. Interestingly, he got the job. I think they've been thinking about the character for a little while before that, even though he was supposed to be replacing Tommy in a way, because it was the spring of 2013 that he did the screen test with Tisha and Alan Halsall, but he didn't end up hearing about getting the part for 6 or 7 months after that. So it was just like old audition, and
Should I get a
phoned
proper
up
job
one day and say, remember that? Yeah. Well, he had a couple of jobs in between. He'd done some TV work beforehand.
It's not a proper job, though, is it?
Well, he wasn't even going to be an actor originally. Apparently, Dean wanted to become a bricklayer like all his mates. But he had wandered into the performing arts room at his college one day, and his love of acting developed from there. He'd been in a BBC drama about Culture Club before Corrie, called Worried About the Boy. He'd been in Homefront on ITV. Also, I like this fact, he was a DJ at the Black Dog Ballroom, which is where we had our Coronation Street quiz, or the Coronation Street quiz, back in August. So that was quite nice to imagine him there. So this is how Dean describes the character of Luke in March 2014 in a Digital Spy article. See if you still think that this is true of the character. We always like this stuff. Luke is an ambitious, cheeky chappy who's a dreamer as well. He dreams about his future aspirations, and he dreams about women too. He tries his best to attain his goals and improve himself, but whether he keeps his focus is another matter, because he's easily distracted. He's a nice guy, but he has a past. What does that mean?
Whoa, that's silly, isn't it?
Racing driver. What I've established is that
true.
Luke's father has been quite absent through his life. That's made Luke become the person he is, in the sense that he's quite independent. He's been living with his mum and Steph, so that's made him quite knowledgeable about women in a certain sense. Luke thinks he knows how to talk to women and please them in ways that other men can't. He also, because of the absence of his dad, he feels as though he's the boss. That's quite interesting backstory to the Brittons, because I never really got that. And I don't know whether it's a sort of thing that was mentioned in the show once but not really built on. But I know we hadn't ever seen the family, and they'd never visited or anything, but I never got the impression that his mum and dad were separated or anything, did you?
No, but we did talk about it before, when Steph had this revenge porn thing, and she was talking about their parents, and we were getting intrigued and being like, oh, we'd really like to see their parents in it, I'd like to see more about their relationship with their parents, and it's still never gone anywhere.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why we assumed that the parents were still together. Obviously, it seems like they're separated, but I mean, the fact that they mentioned the parents makes it sound like the dad was still a part of Steph and Luke's life. Yet this, when in Dean's description of him, makes out that the dad was never really a part of their childhood. I wonder whether he was just given this backstory, but they just didn't mention it in the show because they said, well, we'll mention it if it comes up, and it never really has.
They must have to create these. There has to be some kind of skeleton to place your portrayal of a character on, even if you make it out yourself.
I mean, the rest of the description of himself there is kind of fairly bland, isn't it? Cheeky chappy, yeah, I guess he is. A dreamer, dreaming about aspirations and everything. I didn't really get the idea.
Andy was more of a dreamer than he was.
Yeah, I didn't really get the idea that Luke was going places.
I don't want to be a mechanic anymore.
No, he seemed quite happy enough.
Or like, my dream is to work on a BMW.
He wasn't that much of a player either, was he, when it says he dreams about women? I mean, I know there was bits probably where Tyrone and him were kind of eyeing at the women walking past the garage or anything, but you didn't get the idea that he was like, 100 notches on the bedpost like Aidan. But anyway, it's quite interesting to see what he thought of him back then.
The Coronation Street character descriptions of people that are coming into the show remind me very much of your astrological horoscopes.
They can apply to anybody.
In that you can read it and it can apply to anybody at any point in their life whatsoever, because they're so general and non-specific.
Well, they just seem to have got one general one for any guy of a certain age that comes in, haven't they? Like late teens, early 20s. This description will fit them. They like the ladies.
Bit of a ladies'
heartbreaker.
Man. Secret in the past that maybe he's ran into someone's car while he was robbing a corner shop or whatever.
Right, let's have a look at what Luke has done on the Coronation Street. Would you like to take 2014, Gemma?
Well, he arrived to help Steph move in with Tina because they were busy mates, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Poor Steph is going to be so upset when she finds out that not only is her best friend been murdered, but now her brother as well.
Yeah, Tina's dead. Who else is dead? Andy's dead.
Her boyfriend.
Yeah, he's there. Steph's boyfriend, Steph's brother, and her best mate have all been murdered
Why is she
brutally.
not in the show again? Because she is the perfect soap character.
No wonder she's only coming back for a fleeting visit for the funeral. She's probably going to be flanked by bodyguards.
Yeah. She's probably hiring Gary as her private security. Then Luke got a job at Kevin's garage, which is being run by Tyrone while Kevin was in Germany.
Yeah, I think Kevin comes back and who's this joker working at my garage, and that's when Tyrone was swamped under with work, wasn't it?
He gets drunk with Carla. He wants to sleep with him, but he doesn't want to take advantage of her, and she's clearly forgotten his gentlemanly. She kind of oh yeah, vaguely remember Luke.
I'd forgotten this, that he kind of almost got together with Carla, and I would look back at this and think that's
makes sense.
Not necessarily in his character, although the fact that he does end up with Tracy, Carla's rival, maybe makes you think that he's got an eye for an older woman. Because Maria's older than him as well, wasn't she?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think age gaps in Corrie mean anything, because of the actors are such a range of ages, and they can't limit.
They want to pair off as many people with as many other people as possible.
Yep, it doesn't even matter if you're gay or straight anymore. So he has got feelings for Katie, but Steph was not happy about this because they were mates. Despite this, Luke and Katie end up bonking in a camper van at the garage, and then Katie breaks up with him afterwards because he obviously it's not a good life. Started dating Maria after such fun activities as piggybacking her down a country road when the car breaks down and taking her to the hospital when she gets a mascara stick poked up her bum.
No, in her eye. Do you remember that? I think that was all. Quite often when they get couples together on Coronation Street, there are all a series of comedic events that throws them together, and I think we saw this one coming a mile off. It's like, let's get on with it if you're going to have Luke and Maria together.
God, how horrible we are.
2015, Luke gets a little bit narked when Maria says that he should probably stay away from Beth and Kirk's wedding because she doesn't want to introduce him to her parents. I don't remember much about what went on there. But anyway, Luke moved in with Maria later in 2015. Things got a bit out of hand because he said that he can impress her by saying that he can retile her kitchen because he's a real man. But actually, he got Owen to do it on the sly.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember my awesome storyline title for that? Grout Britton. Loved that one.
Brilliant. Then they also had one of my personal favourite storylines.
This is awful. This is Jenny McAlpine coming back from maternity, wasn't it?
This is one of those unforgettably awful storylines that you don't know whether it was actually genius because you remember it so many years later. But this was when he was involved in the mule face T-shirt scandal.
Counterfeit T-shirt scam.
He gets conned into buying these mule face T-shirts, which are well trendy and designer, but it turns out they're actually fake. And he leads a gang, which includes Chesney, to go and steal the T-shirts
onto a winner there,
so they could get their money back. And the plan ultimately fails when the T-shirts fall off the back of their van.
Yeah, and I think then the guys who were running the mule face thing turn up at the house. At Tyrone and Fiz's house, just as Fiz is coming back from seeing Scylla, and these guys are in the middle of stealing their TV, and she sends them away with a flea in the ear or something. But
yeah, they're like scared of this gang, and then at the end of it, it's really just Fizz that's like, bugger off, and they're like, okay. Also, hats off to whoever thought Muleface was a good name for a T-shirt company. It's obviously somebody sitting in the writers' room going, these kids always have stupid names for things.
I would say that was probably one of the most memorable Luke stories, just for being so rubbish, but actually, he did get one decent story in his time on the show, which was this street racing one back in the back end of 2015, and I did quite enjoy this because it turns out that back in the day he used to do illegal street racing, and he's coaxed into taking it back up again by his old friend Jamie. Jamie turns into be a naughty boy because he was used to date Steph, and he had pictures of her
revenge
online.
Porn.
Yes, and he's going to post them online. He threatens to post them online unless Luke goes in a race for him. And I don't know how all these things work, but basically Luke had to win for Jamie to keep his street cred.
Jamie wanted money, didn't he? And he knew that Luke was really good at racing, and the only way he could think of making money was to blackmail Luke into doing a street race using revenge porn.
Yeah.
Unlikely set of circumstances, but it still made for a good, interesting story.
It was a bit different, wasn't it? He has to keep it a secret from Maria.
Yeah, it was a bit different because they've never before those things had ever happened on Coronation Street, and probably for good reason.
Yeah, why didn't they have a revenge porn storyline back in the 60s? I don't know. It's because it was so wholesome back then.
They never slept. They didn't even sleep in the same bed as each other back in those days.
Anyway, Maria finds out about Luke's dodgy dealings in the car thanks to a tip-off from Norris, but he has to carry it on because of this revenge porn stuff. But Jamie ends up putting the pictures online anyway, doesn't he? What a nasty chap. And then he goes and robs the bistro the next January. Last year, what happened to Luke? He finds out... Oh, yeah.
This was another great storyline.
No,
it was not ridiculous because Maria was she reminds me a bit of Mother Teresa in that she was so selfless and altruistic.
Santa Maria.
She married immigrant Pablo so that he could stay in the country because he was gay.
This is another silly coming back off your maternity storyline, wasn't it? Because this is Samia coming back, and because she's been away on a donkey sanctuary in Cyprus with her parents,
and then she comes back with Pablo and she marries him, but it's all a sham, and she needs to win back Luke's heart, and what better way to do it than to dress as a lion?
Yes, if you have wiped that from your memory.
And he is so enamoured of this that he proposes and she accepts.
I'd even forgotten that they were engaged.
Now, he obviously really had a thing for the Wizard of Oz when he was a kid, and he wanted to be Dorothy and she was going to be the Cowardly Lion. So this makes it even more irritating that Alia seems to think that she's got more rights than Maria.
Just because Maria was engaged to him.
Just because it ended badly doesn't mean that they didn't spend more time together and it was a more serious relationship than he and Alia.
I know. Anyway, he notices towards the end of 2016 that there's something not quite right about Kaz, who was
Kate's
girlfriend and also a bit of a stalker of Maria. She's faking an ankle injury.
Because she's in the army.
She's in the army. But it turns out that secretly she's going through court-martial proceedings. But she's not. Yeah, she was keeping a secret from Kate.
She was like pretending to go to the army and stuff.
Yeah, something.
And we're like, well, no civilians know how this works. So I really literally could have a friend who said they were in the army and be like, oh, so I've got to go to the army next week. And I'd be like, oh, I suppose that's how it works, I guess.
Don't get blown up.
Yeah.
Anyway, she ends up splitting up with Kate and moves in with Luke and Maria, which makes things very strained between them because she was a nut job. They end up falling out over it because he can't be doing with Kaz hanging around. So she has a one-night stand with Aidan, and then she ends things properly with Luke. So sad. He gets together with Tracy and they become booty call buddies. That was weird, wasn't it? That was a bit risque for a story.
It was a little bit.
Just having Luke and Tracy hook up for
But Tracy's a bit
sheets.
of a viscous, whatever she is. How do you say it?
I don't know.
She's tart, basically. is she, though? She is. She's a very physical person.
Yeah.
Every relationship that she's in, she's always really
Just
randy and runs off with them all the time because she had the same...
Yeah, Steve's probably having a great time at the moment. That's why we've not seen him. He's just like recovering in bed.
Yeah, exactly. It won't last long though because she wears them out. Gary suspects Luke of being behind Bethany's mystery Christmas disappearance as he was last seen comforting her on the bench.
Yes, it wasn't him though.
Wasn't him,
He's just a nice guy.
Now, 2017...
Final full year.
He could have died many times this year. Firstly, when he is crushed under a car at the garage, when Kevin admits he hadn't put up a safety stand properly.
This was Final Destination, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Escape's getting crushed under the car, only to die from a bullet like 11 months later.
Luke plans to sue, but Adam talks him out of it in return for a date with Rosie.
Who wouldn't?
Is that Adam gets to date Rosie, or is that Luke gets to date Rosie?
Adam gets to go on a date with Rosie.
Why is
Luke persuades Rosie to go out with Adam somehow. I don't know.
Bizarre. He gets suspicious when Andy disappears, but he gives up after it's too hard.
Yeah, few dead ends and like that.
That's exactly my life story. It's too hard to give up. Tracy, you've written Tracy grows bored of Luke, and I thought it said Tracy grows a beard, and they split up.
You don't like that in a woman.
Yeah, Tracy gets
I'm the one that wears the
Luke.
beard in this relationship, lass.
They split up, and then he starts dating the love of his life, Alia.
Alia, beautiful Alia.
And it's like love at first sight. The angels singing choirs.
Doesn't he cook lasagna for her or something? What's that?
He quits lasagna. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
And doesn't he cook her some special meal at some point? I'm sure I remember that.
I thought he said he quits lasagna.
No, cooks lasagna.
I was like, I wouldn't give up lasagna for anybody.
It probably wasn't lasagna. It was something he was cooking for her. But it's enough to make her fall head over heels in love with him.
Then he starts to investigate Andy's disappearance a bit more because he's got a lot of posts knocking about the house and it's really starting to become a mess. A friend comes looking for him, but Pat manages to throw him off the scent. Then he discovers a secret about Rana and Kate's secret relationship and has to cover up for them after finding them at it in the back of a van.
Almost at it.
And, well, I would say having your clothes off is getting at it.
They were getting up to something.
They were. You couldn't sell food in that van unless you sprayed it down afterwards.
2018 didn't really do much. He was dead a few days into the year.
6 days into the year.
Yeah, didn't have a very, very good shot at it this year, to be honest. Defended
that was
Alia.
Bad taste, Michael.
Sorry.
A shot.
Shut up. Alia, he defends Alia because of this whole Parker thing, and they made their racist comments towards her, and then he becomes suspicious.
The racists?
Yeah, the racists. Finally, the last thing he ever does is become suspicious over Andy again, and the rest is history. As we know, ends up burnt to a crisp at the hands of Pat Phelan.
Gets shot and he gets exploded.
Yeah. So, he was a nice guy.
What a nice bloke.
He was quite funny.
I think I'd want him to be my friend. I think I'd get on quite well with him unless he started talking about football or sports or something.
I think he probably would, or his racing cars or whatever.
I'm sure that he's like, when he's not on the show, I'm sure his life revolved around talking about football and drinking beer.
I just liked him because he was... I mean, I often don't like the 20-something guys that come in because they're all just like, ladies man and getting drunk and interested in sport and everything. But he did seem like a genuinely nice, friendly guy, didn't he? Which is why it's so sad that he's no longer with us. He just was a bit boring.
I don't think he was boring. I felt like
the stories he were in were boring.
Yeah, there was a budding comedian there just waiting to come out, and they tried it a few times and then they gave up. But I feel like they never tapped into his potential as being a comedy character.
No.
So they tried it quite a few times and it almost worked, but it just kind of fell on its face and they never really put the effort into.
I think there always seems to be like a third person at the garage, and I was having a look at the list of employees that Kevin's had over the years, and it's not actually been too many, but because before him there was Tommy, and I can't remember before that, but yeah, there's always someone whose job is just to be kind of like the eye candy at the garage, but they don't really get into very many stories. But I don't know, I suppose it was a nice wage for 4 years, so you can't complain. Relationship with Maria, kiss of death, I think. I think if you end up going out with Maria, that's
Well, look at Pablo. Where is he now?
prison probably, or back to Cyprus.
Yeah.
I quite liked. We've said before that we like it when they have brother-sister relationships in Coronation Street, which isn't often developed very much, is it? Because one of the characters when inevitably go off somewhere, we like the fact that David and Sarah have been getting at each other's throats all this time, and it's a shame that Steph had to go off and he was left on his own. I suppose that now, like, Alia and Zidane take up the mantle of that, and Rana and Imran, I suppose, with the new ones that are coming. Do you blame Dean for leaving? Because he obviously wanted to try out all this new stuff. He's going to be on stage soon, isn't he? He wants to spread his wings, and he was happy that Luke was killed off because he said it means that he can't just have it as something to fall back on.
It's not a safety net, but it's still Emmerdale.
Yeah, I know. I wonder whether wonder whether we'll see him pop up on Emmerdale. That often happens, doesn't it? I don't really blame him for going. I wonder whether he thought that his character was in a bit of a rut.
Yeah,
I'm sure that if they'd have wanted to do more with him, it would have been more. He'd have wanted to stay more.
Yeah, you can't. I can't ever blame a character who I feel had wasted potential.
He was definitely
for
seed
going,
here.
Well, I'm going then.
It was like Erica, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
that's what I was literally just thinking of Erica.
And Derek Griffiths, the real Derek Griffiths, in it for a year, not really doing anything with him. So it's like, well, going off then. Although I'm sure that he made some really good mates on the cast. Like, you see the photos of.
I know, it must
them
be a
all
good
together.
laugh when they get together, but obviously they don't always get together, and it sort of seems quite like they're kind of ships passing in the night a lot of the times. Unless you've got a scene with somebody, you're not going to see them. They don't all go to work at 9 and go home at 5.
No.
They're all in and out all the time, so
Yeah,
he would have sort of.
You get the idea that some of them will socialise after.
Well, the thing is, he was always hanging around with sort of the actors who are a similar age to him. So you can imagine that if they liked each other, and there's been no, I don't know whether they did or not, so I assume they did. Must have been quite good fun.
Well, I'm sure they can still meet up anyway if he's going to stay in the Manchester
they're not
area.
allowed to speak
so maybe
to
we'll
each
see
other.
some pap photos of them together. I do wish them the best of luck. I'll be interested to see him in something else coming up. Right. Nothing more really to say for the obituary of Luke.
Aww.
Underused.
Rip.
Should have really made Freddie his secret granddad. We always
Or
were.
dad.
Oh, yeah.
I really, really wish they would have done that. And I know they made a cheeky allusion to it in the script once by saying it's funny that people think they really look alike. But it just would have been just funny and great.
Well, when they employed Derek Griffiths, I wonder whether they ever thought, shall we make him this grieving widower of and then a friend to Kylie, or shall we make him Luke's granddad?
Or dad.
Or dad, or whatever.
Never mind.
Right. So long, Luke.
Obviously,
I'm
they
sure
didn't
we'll have
do
forgotten
that
about you in the next 6 months.
because they have a really good storyline lined up for Luke's real parents that we will find out
Got
soon.
to be. And we'll still have a little bit more of Luke on the show, won't we? Because it's going to be his funeral coming up soon.
Can't wait for the funeral. If the vigil was good, I can't imagine what the funeral's going to be like.
It's interesting to me. It makes me wonder, because they've obviously they've been filming the funeral quite recently, and they've put it off on the show. I wonder whether they did that as a smart move, because they knew that people would see them filming the funeral, and if it hadn't been revealed that Luke was going to get killed off, that would have given the game away. So I wonder whether they're purposely delaying filming the funeral. Yeah, just
because what?
So that it wasn't revealed that Luke would die, because if the funeral was going to be the week after Luke was killed, then we'd have...
So you're saying that they actually learned from their past
Well,
mistakes
I
and did
wonder
outside
whether they
shoots
did.
after something had already been revealed?
They need to put a graveyard in the new Coronation Street set expansion, don't they? So because quite often we find out that characters have died because they get Pats filming their funeral.
They need to have a park, right, in the new set, and they need to have it completely surrounded by trees, and then all they have to do is when they want to do a graveyard scene is to reverse the angle, so we're looking at different trees, and bring out a big sheet with pop-up graves on it, and then just like fling it out like AstroTurf.
Roll it out, yeah.
Why not?
Why not, indeed.
Write that into them. Send that as an idea.